Hello and welcome to this episode of Voices of Fostering. And it's wonderful to be joined today by the lovely Joel. Hello, Joel.
Hi, how are you all doing?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today on the podcast. I'm really looking forward to hearing about you and your journey. So you've been a foster carer for 2 years, I understand, with your husband, haven't you? So tell us what it was that led you to fostering. Why did you decide to do it? Is it something that you and your husband have always wanted to do?
Yeah, well, it was one of those things where we weren't sure about what we were going to. We've been together for quite a long time. We've been together for 13 years. So we were always talking about the possibility of having children, whether that be through surrogate adoption or fostering. And we decided that actually, because there's lots of little people out there that need help and support. We thought, actually, do you know what, fostering is probably going to be the best route for us, that we can feel like we're actually making a difference.
Yeah, because obviously as a same-sex couple, Joel, you do have to think about it more, don't you? You know what I mean? You do sort of reflect on what is it that you want from starting a family. And what was it about fostering in particular that appealed to you?
I think for us, we started off having it was difficult conversations, really, and the conversations we had seemed to be quite, for us, they just seemed maybe slightly selfish in a way, because we were thinking about like the adoption route and things like that, or we were thinking about surrogacy, and then obviously there was the conversations about who's who'd be the biological father, that kind of thing, and then we found that conversation actually turned out to be quite difficult, so we decided that the better option. And then when we realised, and we looked into fostering a lot more, and we dug into the details of it all, and then we realised that there were actually quite a bit of a crisis out there at the minute looking for foster carers. It all just fit, and we were like, well, actually, do you know what? That is actually perfect for us. Yeah. This is the right thing to do.
Wonderful. So what did you do? Did you just reach out to NFG, or was it another fostering agency at the beginning? What did you do?
Yeah, well, we were looking into it. We've spoken. One of our friends, funnily enough, we're quite lucky to have a friend who used to be the director for social services in London.
Wow!
Yeah, so we were quite lucky to have kind of that backing and that support.
Yeah.
And we'd been thinking about fostering for quite a lot of years, and because my career was moving around quite a bit, it wasn't really the right time. And then we decided, after 11 years of being together, that it was time to get married and settle down and put roots down rather than keep jumping around with my career. That we decided that, you know what, let's do the marriage thing and let's go for it. So we started the process, and we looked into lots of different agencies, and the one that came out on top was NFG. They're the ones that seem to have the best fit for us with what they offer, and it's been brilliant.
And did it happen quite quickly after that initial contact that you made, or was it something that took a bit of time?
Yeah, the approval process took quite some time, actually. We started, and it took nearly 10 months for us for the approval process. So it was a long time, but I think that was due to, throughout the process, there's kind of like small gaps and things within. I lived abroad for a few years, so he was trying to find people that I used to work with 20 years ago. So, I mean, there's no stone unturned, is there? And he said it's quite a thorough process. Mm-hmm. So it did take quite some time.
Yeah, they do have to delve into things, but obviously for very clear reasons, really. It's very important that our carers are, really well assessed. And how did you find the whole assessment process? What was it like for you both?
It was daunting at first, because you don't know what you're going to get asked, and you don't know how it's, you don't know what questions are going to be asked either. And it was kind of one of those things where, right at the beginning, it was bombarded with like, this is what we need, this is what we're going to look at, this is how long the assessment process is going to take, this is how many home visits you're going to have. And me, Jake and I were both kind of like, oh wow, okay, this is thorough.
Quite a lot.
But actually, we were really lucky. The independent assessor that was assigned to us, she was lovely. She was a great social worker. She was so easy to talk to. And then obviously you've got people from the agency. Like Megan, who from the agency, was absolutely superb with us, and she was always there on hand as well. So we kind of had both of them supporting us through the whole process, which was really nice.
Yeah, you're sort of like guided quite gently through it, aren't you? You know, you say it's quite a lot of
Yeah.
information at first, but then you feel like, you know, you go through it step by step, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, we were kind of expecting it to be like really formal, really black and white, really like you need to answer my question X, Y, and Z, and it wasn't like that. It was very much about feelings, and there was a lot of
Yeah.
empathy there. So even when trying to get hold of some of my older peers from when I lived out in America and things like that, it was kind of they were just so patient with it. They weren't pushing, they weren't forcing it. They were like,
Yeah.
right, take your time because they wanted the right information.
Yeah. I think a lot of people worry as well, Joel, about like having to contact ex-partners and stuff. Did you have any experience with that? And what was that like?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, one of my previous partners passed away, so
Right.
they couldn't get hold of him. And then I'd only ever had one besides that, and that was when I lived in America, and we
Right.
remained really good friends up until that point. We've always been really good friends, so yeah, that wasn't too bad for me
Yeah.
or for Jake, in all fairness.
I think it's important for people to know, though, that it is very sensitively done, isn't it? And I
It
think,
is, yes.
yeah, and I think they understand that, you know, you break up with someone for a reason, don't you? It's you're not always going to be totally complimentary about your ex, but you know, it
No.
was good that obviously yours was quite amicable. So that's good that you had that good experience. So what sort of fostering did you see yourself doing, and then what did you end up doing?
Well, we initially thought when we came into it, because there's a bit of an age gap between Jake and I as well. So we were always very aware that if we took older children, that they might see me as a parental figure, but they might see Jake as more like a brother or
Right.
something
Okay.
like that.
Yeah.
We didn't want to go too old. So we tried to stay away. We did suggest that we'd stay away from teenagers, and we kind of originally said between like 5 and 10. But then, throughout the process, they suggested to us for the approval process of the panel, they were like, you're becoming very niche there, and you're only opening yourselves to a certain demographic
Yeah.
and placements. So we changed it from 0 to 18, but obviously within that we said with his preferences would be, and then we had the initial conversation we had with the local authority. We got approved, and 5 days later that we were asked if we'd take a placement, and we were originally supposed to take a couple of girls, but the local authority at the time was very concerned that we were a same-sex couple, so that was quite challenging to navigate someone. And I understand why they did that, but the manner in which they did it wasn't very helpful.
Okay.
And we were quite concerned by that. So in the end, we decided that we wouldn't go ahead with that placement. And then we got a phone call 2 days later asking us if we'd take these two little boys on an emergency, and we ended up with a 1 and a 2-year-old.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, we found out at 9 o'clock in the morning that this could potentially happen, and then they rang us at 3 o'clock on the Friday afternoon and said they're on the way. And I was like, oh, okay, not ready. Not
Yeah.
prepared for this. I went to Tesco and swiped everything off the shelves that I thought we might actually need for a 1 and a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's quite daunting. I was asking questions to the ladies in there. I was like, I didn't know size nappies, whether they were in nappies or all that kind of stuff. So it was really, really daunting, but by far the best thing we ever did.
And can you remember how it felt when those two little boys first arrived in your home?
It was really strange. I mean, you're overwhelmed straight away with it's always. I think nerves get you more than anything else because it's your first placement. You're really nervous. You don't know what to expect, and you don't know how the children are going to react to you. And then you get excitement, and you're excited, and you're really keen on it, and it was a real mixture. And then there's also the feeling of hurt because you know that these kids have been through something.
Yeah.
So you have, straight away you have that instinct of you feel emotional, and we did. I mean, I remember the first night that the boys finally fell asleep. Jake and I sat downstairs and we just burst into tears, and but they were kind of happy tears as well in a way because we knew that what we were going to be able to give to these boys was going to be something quite amazing.
Yeah.
Which is what we tried to do every single day with them.
Absolutely. And you knew that they were somewhere safe and that you were going to
Yeah.
care for them. Yeah. So you've had those same two boys with you now for 2 years. Is that right?
Yeah, well, the placements just ended actually. Yeah,
Oh,
so it was
wow.
heartbreaking. Yeah, they've just gone. There was lots of tears, and um, we, I mean, it was a difficult choice for the local authority to obviously decide to put notice in on them. But they had two siblings, two sisters, so we took the sisters as well. So we ended up with
Mm.
four children
Wow.
after 6 months. And for a first placement, there was some complex needs, especially with the middle two. And it just got too challenging and too
Yeah.
difficult for Jake and I to manage. So we had to make a decision, which was an unfortunate decision, which was to end the placement for the girls.
Yeah.
And then the local authority decided that they wanted to keep all four of them together, so they put in notice on the boys as well and took the boys.
Right.
So yeah, it's been a really tough few weeks.
I think what you've just experienced now, Joel, is maybe what people worry about. Well, I know it is. I know it's what a lot of people worry about. You know, how will I feel when children are taken away, when they move on? And honestly, how has it been and how have you got through it?
Lots of tears.
Yeah.
It's lots and lots because we did, excuse me, we did grow like a really strong emotional attachment to the
Yeah.
boys. They became just part of the family, and they were very close with my family, and it's been really 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 difficult. But we've got each other, and the agency have been amazing, and we've been very lucky that our supervising social worker has been there every step of the way with us, supporting us. And even as far as the team manager with NFA North, they've all been superb with us and really helped us to do it. But more so than anything, we've got each other and we're quite solid. We've got a solid foundation, so
Yeah.
we're okay,
Yeah.
just okay. I
Um,
wouldn't say we're amazing. We're just okay at the minute.
yeah, because there are a lot of difficult situations and, there are a lot of difficult emotions, but you feel like it's all manageable and that you've always got a lot of support.
Yeah. Oh, we've been inundated with support. We've been very very lucky. Like I said, our supervising social worker, she's fantastic. It's been great. The communication's always there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've been all right.
And what do you feel like is next for you and your husband now, Joel?
We're already on next.
Okay.
Yeah, so we got a phone call. Well, the boys left us last Friday. And then we got a phone call that Friday evening saying there was a carer that needed some support with respite. So
Yeah.
we're just doing some daycare at the moment.
Okay.
We've got a sibling group that are just coming to us during the daytime for a little bit to just give another carer a little bit of respite and time off,
Yeah.
which is really nice for us because it kind of gives us that opportunity to ease gently into potentially another placement.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's quite nice, and the lovely kids as well. So we first day with them was yesterday, and we
Oh,
went to the
brilliant.
beach and played on the arcades and all that kind of stuff, and just bought them a stick of rock and stuff. So it was really nice to be able to kind of do that. And then
Yeah.
I think it's helped me and Jake because we spoke about it, last night when we were sat down having a cup of tea watching telly. We're talking about it. And we're saying, actually, do you know what? It feels all right.
Yeah.
It feels fine. We know that we gave him a brilliant day yesterday.
Yeah.
So it kind of felt, you feel good about that, even when I handed him back, he was like, I've had an amazing day.
Oh.
And you're like, so you've done something good.
Yeah, definitely.
It's nice.
And what do you and Jake do for work then, Joel? Do you both work? Does one of you work? How does that work with fostering and your careers?
So Jake's a primary carer. I've always worked.
Right. Okay.
I gave up doing my full-time job when we took the girls as well because it was too much for him. So we were just looking after all four, but I was still doing some consultancy work and some bits on the side. So
Yeah.
I've kind of kept my toe in the water. But now so I'm looking to get back into. I'm going to go back into full-time work now,
Right.
and Jake will go back to being a primary carer. So that's generally how it's worked for us.
Yeah, because I think sometimes people think that they would have to sacrifice their careers, and that's not always the case, is it?
No, I mean, even Jake's got himself a little part-time job just working in a school on an afternoon.
Yeah.
So whenever the kids are at school, there's no worries, and he's still got a little bit of a social circle that he's doing. He's only, let's say, he's only doing 2 or 3 hours a day over lunchtime sort of thing, just supporting with like the dinner times at schools.
Yeah.
So, which is something he never saw himself doing.
Right.
He's always worked alongside me in the hospitality industry.
Yeah.
He's always been like a manager in restaurants and things like that. So this is, even though it's still food, it's schools. So it's it really is child based now. So it's kind of flipped a little bit, which is really nice.
Yeah. Good stuff. So we talked about some of the challenges, Joel, that you face, with fostering. But what have been some of the highlights for you over the last couple of years? And I'm sure there's still many, many to come. But what's been some of the good stuff?
I think probably the best thing I think that we ever did was we took all 4 of the children on a family holiday abroad last year to Turkey.
Oh, amazing.
Never been on a plane, never been to an airport, never seen any of that. And we just made a really big deal of it. And, everything from getting up in the morning and getting ready with the suitcases and making sure that they had their own passports, and they were all excited to hold the passports to go, to give it to the mister at the airport and they just had the best time. They'd never been on a boat, so we took them on a boat. They'd never been on like a Jeep safari. We did that. Swimming pool all day. Yeah, it was fabulous, and they had the best time.
And how did that make you feel to see them like that? Because you say they'd never experienced those things before, and you're giving that experience to them. That must have felt amazing.
Yeah, I mean, even at the young age that they're at, the youngest being 4 and the eldest being 8, we know that those memories will last. And I think that's that's going to be like the one thing that makes you feel good about it, is that that you made a difference. That you made those memories with those children, and that they're never going to forget that. They're going to have those memories for the rest of their lives. It's even, I mean, the little one's obsessed with penguins, so we used to take him. We used to go to SeaWorld in Scarborough quite a bit to see penguins and things. So all these little memories, all these trips out, everything that we've ever done with them, we've always made it. We've always bought them a memento as well from everywhere we've been. So they've got like a little keepsake from each one that they can put in the memory box. So those are the things that that they'll always be able to look at that and be able to say, "Oh, I remember when we went there. I remember when we did that."
Yeah. Oh, Joel, it sounds like you and Jake have made such an impact on those little boys and the little girls' lives in the last couple of years. And you're set to do even more with other children coming up. How long do you sort of see you and Jake doing this for?
Oh, we love it.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. We've had a tough time with the local authority recently, and we've not had an easy ride with them, and it has been quite difficult to navigate. But there's so much love still to give.
Yeah.
Why stop now?
Yeah.
Why stop now? If we can put an imprint on any children's lives where they've got a memory that can last a lifetime, what's a better feeling than that?
Yeah. Absolutely. And for anyone watching or listening, Joel, particularly, the couples from or single people from the LGBTQ plus community, how would you encourage them to go for it with fostering? Obviously, as you said, there's lots of things to think about. There's lots of different ways of starting a family, but why would you encourage people to go for fostering?
I think it's going back to what I said previously. I think it's that you're able to make a difference in somebody's life. And if you're able to do that, and you can open your heart, your home to anybody that needs someone just, to love them, whether it be short term or long term, whether it be respite, like, do it. There's fulfillment there. That's what, it is a fulfilling role. And it doesn't matter whether you're gay, straight, or bisexual. It doesn't matter. If you've got a heart and you've got love to give, then give it. Persevere and do it. And, it's the best thing we ever did.
Brilliant. Well, that is a wonderful way to end our chat, Joel. Thank you so, so much for talking to us today and for being so open. And best of luck to you and Jake for the future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Voices of Fostering. If you'd like to find out more, head online and search National Fostering Group and make this the year you foster.